You see him on the news.
CNN.com contributor Dean Obeidallah. So, Dean,
watch him at comedy clubs.
When I say Mecca, do you think of a holy place or an urban clothing line?
Read his articles, and you hear him on the radio. The Dean Obeidallah Show is on live right here on SiriusXM Progress, channel 127.
And welcome to the show, brothers and sisters of the resistance. Monday, November 19th, Thanksgiving week. Dean Obeidallah, MBFF. I'm here for you. At Twitter, at Dean Obeidallah. Facebook.com/Dean of Radio. If you want to watch the monologue, it's right there. If you want to check out my articles, I've been writing a bunch lately. They're all on Facebook.com/Dean of Radio. Or drop me an email. I appreciate people who have been sending me emails with ideas for topics. We are going to cover a lot of substantive stuff in December. You know, the last week of November, of course, December and the new year, that are not just politics, issues of concern that I think are important to us as human beings, that I think we should know more about, all of us. And then politics always gets involved. Today is November 19th. Of course, 2 days left. We will be live here. Then Thanksgiving, we're off Thursday and Friday, but we're live the next 2 days. We're doing our shows. Got some great shows. Really excited about people coming up. And what happened over the weekend? I hope you had a nice weekend, first of all. I was off Friday. Thank Tina for doing a great job. Tupri, who sat in Friday. A lot of craziness. I was on CNN International this morning. We were rehashing Trump's weekend, which they love to do. And I go, nothing, he says, is surprising, yet we are obligated on some level to push back, not allow him to normalize falsities and lies, mainstream deception with his nonstop font of propaganda and misinformation. So we're stuck doing that. I'm not going to rehash it here. I'm just going to point out one thing that I found interesting and amusing. So Trump over the weekend gets upset at Adam Schiff, as we all know, the Democrat from California, who will be the next House Intel chair. He was on some cable news outlet like he is and doing a great job telling the truth as opposed to Trump. Adam Schiff is a former prosecutor, smart guy, very effective. Trump got upset with what he said. So what does Trump do? The juvenile in the White House, who, again, I'm telling you, I don't want to call him 45. To me, the next president's the 45th. Trump is an asterisk. He's just a name shoved in between Obama and the next real president. In any event, that asterisk guy tweeted, and this was intentional, he mocks Adam Schiff. He says, so funny to see little Adam shit. Oh, he misspelled Schiff, dropped the 2 F's and put 2 T's, but actually put D, California. And then he went on to say, talking about the fact that acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker was not approved by the Senate, but mentioning the fact that Bob Mueller, who was highly conflicted, was not approved by the Senate. Trump calling Adam Schiff Adam shit is probably something Adam Schiff has heard since he's like 5. I mean, this is what you do. It's like me growing up and my nickname, people call me Obladi Oblada. You know, or if someone said Dean owe me $1. Those are the other nicknames I get all the time. How? I got Obladi Oblada. How Dean owe me $1? I have no clue, but that's what people said all the time. So if Trump tweeted today, Dean owe me $1, you're an idiot, I'd be like, you're an idiot. You're a hack. You do nothing original. So he calls Adam Schiff Adam shit on Twitter because that's the man in the White House, the leader of the Republican Party. And I think it's interesting. What I find interesting is that that's what Trump did. Today, in 1863, Abraham Lincoln delivered the Gettysburg. Congressman Adam Schiff's new nickname on Twitter and thinking it's funny. Oh my God. By the way, Adam Schiff responded, wow, Mr. President, that's a good one. What was that like? Answers to your Mr. Mueller's questions, or did you write them yourself? And by the way, getting to the substance of Trump allegation that Adam Schiff was upset Matthew Whitaker was not confirmed, but didn't mention Robert Mueller was not confirmed by the Senate. There's a reason why Matthew Whitaker would be in the cabinet. He is obligated to be confirmed. The Robert Mueller doesn't need to be confirmed, and a federal judge in August ruled that the appointment of Robert Mueller was constitutional. No problem. So that's that. Here's some fun stuff here, a little bit more fun. Here's John Oliver last night on his show on HBO, sort of rehashing the week of Donald Trump and some funny stuff. Let's hear clip number 1.
We begin with President Trump, the most racist president we've had since we decided presidents probably shouldn't be racist. Trump had a week of responding to things in a non-ideal manner, from calling Saudi Arabia a spectacular ally just a day after the CIA implicated Mohammed bin Salman in a journalist killing, to touring the devastation following the California wildfires and having this exchange.
Does seeing this devastation, though, change your opinion at all on climate change, Mr. President?
No. I have a strong opinion. I want
great climate. We're going to have
I want great climate. At this point, Trump just inserts whatever noun someone just said into his stock bullshit answers. What's your opinion on SpongeBob SquarePants, Mr. President? I want great SpongeBob, and we're going to have that. It's going to be the spongiest Bob, and we love it, don't we? The pants that are square, we love them.
And again, for those who listen, they know my greatest joy is not always the punchlines of the comedians, and John Oliver's great, is just the real raw footage of Trump speaking and the audience organically laughing at him without a written punchline, because what he's saying is so ridiculous, you must laugh. When they asked Trump about climate change, he goes, I want great climate. Ah! And then here is on Saturday Night Live, Steve Carell hosted. And there's a really funny video where Steve Carell played Jeff Bezos. And in that, he talks directly to the camera. It's a pre-taped film. And talks about why he picked North Virginia and Queens for the new homes for Amazon, as Jeff Bezos, of course, and why he's doing it, and that he's pretending that he's not doing it to troll Donald Trump. Let's hear clip number 2 from SNL.
I chose our new locations because they were ideal for growing business, not just to make Donald Trump think about how I'm literally 100 times richer than he is. We needed access to a young, educated workforce, which is why we set up a satellite office in Palm Beach, Florida, across the street from Mar-a-Lago. But the real reason I wanted to talk to you today has nothing to do with Donald Trump, who publicly attacked our company for exploiting the post office. I am here to announce a brand new delivery option that doesn't involve the post office at all. Amazon Caravan. Any package going to any Trump building will get delivered by hundreds of Honduran and Mexican immigrants. I'll pick up the bill. Unless you order the Art of the Deal, that costs more to ship because it's heavier. I guess it's the only book with 4 Chapter 11s.
The only book with 4 Chapter 11s is a very good line. And that's some funny stuff. What's interesting, though, is he makes a really good point, and this is what I wanted to talk about here at the top of the show. That Donald Trump has tried to hurt Jeff Bezos, Amazon, and the Washington Post. He literally, and it was reported, that he talked to the Postmaster General himself to see if they could raise postage fees on Amazon. Why? Because Jeff Bezos owns Amazon and owns the Washington Post. The Washington Post is critical of him, and his goal, Donald Trump's, that is to shut down any criticism of whatsoever. And we have to keep fighting against Trump's attempts to do that. We know that. I don't have to say that. Something happened today, though, that I found very more than disappointing. I'd say alarming and disturbing. And of all the groups that do this, it was the White House Correspondents Association, a great organization. They have their annual dinner for decades now. They raise money for people to be journalists. They are on the front lines fighting for freedom of speech through fighting for freedom of press. But they did something today horribly inconsistent with that. And I want to talk about it in the bigger picture, but also coming from a comedic background, it affects me. Not that I'm going to have the gig, but it just affects me more. Like I take it more personally. And I was at the dinner last year when Michelle Wolf performed. But a comedian has been the featured performer at the White House Correspondents' Dinner since the early 1980s. Before that was a whole bunch of, there were singers, Frank Sinatra, the whole list goes on. Starting in 1983, a comedian became the fixture at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And many times there was outrage after the comedian's performance. Generally outrage from the right, as you would imagine, because they have very little humor. But no one has ever ended the comedian, nor have people actually called for the comedian not to be there anymore. The tradition has endured. That is until today. Today, a short time ago, if you didn't see it, it's not big headlines, but to me, it got on my radar. The White House Correspondents' Dinner has announced a short time ago today, there will be no comedian at this year's annual dinner in April. Instead, the featured speaker will be author and presidential historian Ron Chernow. Now, in a vacuum, if the White House Correspondents' Association said, you know what, we've made a decision. This year we're going to change gears. We're not going to have comedy. We want someone who's to speak about the history of presidents and also touch on the history of the First Amendment and why it's so important to protect. That would be fine. But here's the thing. We don't live in a vacuum. We live in the real world. And regardless of the true intention of the White House Correspondents Association, it appears to me, and I'd love to hear from you, that they have given in to Donald Trump's demands. A man who last year after the White House Correspondents' Dinner in April demanded the dinner stop happening or that they change the format. And as a reminder, in April, and we covered it then, the White House Correspondents' Dinner, comedian Michelle Wolf took aim at everybody. She took aim at Trump, of course. Sarah Huckabee Sanders was there because Trump was too much of a coward to go himself, so he sent her. But I looked at the jokes today. She even went after the Democrats. She went after the media. She went after everybody. And a lot of the jokes were about Trump. Here's one of them, that she said that Trump loves white nationalists, which is a weird term for a Nazi. Calling a Nazi a white nationalist, like calling a pedophile a kid friend, or Harvey Weinstein a ladies' man. You know, you get it. And they're edgy. Many on the right were upset, but even some in the middle were a little upset about Michelle Wolf's jokes. But here's the thing. None of those people who were upset called for the dinner to be canceled or the format to be changed. That wasn't until Donald Trump that night took to Twitter and did that very thing. And he tweeted, "The White House Correspondents' Dinner was a failure, but this year was an embarrassment to everyone associated with it. The filthy comedian totally bombed, couldn't even deliver her lines, much like the Seth Meyers weak performance." Then adding, "Put dinner to rest or start over." Put dinner to rest or start over. The next morning, Trump again got on Twitter, slamming the event and its format, tweeting, "The White House Correspondents' Dinner is dead as we know it. This was a total disaster and an embarrassment to our great country and all it stands for. Fake news is alive and well and beautifully represented on Saturday night." It is in the context of Donald Trump's demands that you must evaluate the White House Correspondents Association today announcing they're ending a 30-plus year tradition, to have a comedian at that dinner who would make fun of the president, the media, and everybody else. It was no one ever went up there just making fun of the president, except for maybe Stephen Colbert when he did an impression of George W. Bush right to his face, which was the most ballsy thing anyone's ever seen. And even then, no one asked for the dinner to be canceled. What's especially shocking to me is the White House Correspondents Association fully appreciates the risk Donald Trump poses to freedom of expression and freedom of the press. And they're intertwined. Freedom of the press is, yes, in the First Amendment, but implicit in all of that is freedom of expression. That's what we must always protect. And they've been fighting against Trump publicly. In October, everyone probably remembers Donald Trump at his rally in Montana where he praised Congressman Greg Gianforte, the man who literally picked up a reporter and body slammed him because the reporter dared to ask a question Gianforte didn't like. Well, Trump at this rally cheered it, got the audience to really get into it and mimic the idea of body slamming a reporter. Well, Olivier Knox, that president of the White House Correspondents Association, who's been on this show, who's a very nice guy, at that time put out a very strong statement, including saying all Americans should recoil from the president's praise for a violent assault on a reporter doing his constitutionally protected job. And that statement went on. And just last week, with Jim Acosta and CNN and Trump trying to take his press credentials, actually taking them away and going to federal court, the White House Correspondents Association, they submitted a brief arguing to protect Acosta against Trump in very, very strong language against Trump. And they had one part of it, which they said in their brief they filed, the White House is the people's house, and the First Amendment does not permit the president to pick and choose which journalists do and do not cover him there. I love that. The White House Correspondents Association, up until a few hours ago, in my view, was one of the leaders in fighting against Donald Trump's efforts to suppress freedom of expression. But that all changed. And just like they say Trump should not be able to pick and choose journalists who cannot cover him, the White House Correspondents Association should not allow Donald Trump to pick and choose what type of criticism of Trump will be allowed at their events. And that's what they have done. And what the White House Correspondents Association might not be aware of, and I am, and I wrote it in my article today for the Daily Beast, actually a plea to the White House Correspondents Association to change their position on this. Donald Trump for years has been trying to silence not just serious criticism, even committed criticism. Just like when I've been in the Middle East and I performed at countless countries. And one of the rules always is you cannot make fun of the leader in that country because people understand the power of a joke. They understand it can reach people that might not read a serious article. They don't want people sharing jokes about that leader. It undermines them. Many leaders like Trump would prefer to be feared than liked. So what happened? Here's Donald Trump. Let me give you some examples of Trump. In October 2016, as a Republican nominee, a few weeks from Election Day, there was Trump on Twitter calling for Saturday Night Live, this iconic show, to be canceled simply because they mocked him, in his view, unfairly. In fact, Trump tweeted then, "Watch Saturday Night Live, hit job on me, time to retire the boring and unfunny show." Just a few months ago, Trump went after late-night comics at a rally, attacking them as no talent, from Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert. But Trump's attempts to silence comedians go long before he was ever involved in politics. In 2013, did you know this? Trump sued Bill Maher for $5 million. Why did he sue Bill Maher, the comedian? Because he was so upset with a joke Bill Maher told, in which he said Trump was the spawn of his mother having sex with an orangutan, that he came up with this ridiculous reason that Bill Maher had made me a promise that he would make a donation to a charity if I showed him my birth certificate, whatever garbage. He literally sued Bill Maher for $5 million and later withdrawing the lawsuit. The goal of the lawsuit was to silence Bill Maher. Trump also taunted Jon Stewart in 2013, and this says so much about Trump. Because sometimes we think, was he always this despicable? Was he always this diabolical? Well, here is evidence of that. 2013, Jon Stewart, still hosting The Daily Show, goes after Trump in a rant that really gets Trump upset. So Trump goes to Twitter and attacks him. And one of the things, and you explain to me, is there any good faith reason other than anti-Semitism that Trump would tweet this? He attacks Jon Stewart in a series of tweets, including one saying, if Jon Stewart is so above it all and legit, why did he change his name from Jonathan Leibowitz? He should be proud of his heritage. Why would Trump bring up Jon Stewart's real name, Jonathan Leibowitz? As Jon Stewart responded later to that, Trump tried to let people know I'm a Jew. That's exactly what Trump was doing. Trump is a vicious, despicable person. He's been that way for years. So now the White House Correspondents Association sadly has given Trump what he wanted. He hasn't been able to silence a lot of other comedians, but on this national platform once a year, where all the media focuses and the reporters are there, and that comedian makes fun of the president, the White House Correspondents' Dinner has adhered to Trump, what he wanted. And to me, this is absolutely unequivocally wrong. Now, if you don't know who Ron Chernow is, the person they have there who's going to speak, that's great. He's an acclaimed writer. Here's my take on it. You let Ron Chernow, who said he's going to speak about, to make the case for the First Amendment, that's what he's going to speak about. He said that's what the White House Correspondents Association asked him to do. I think that's great. You make the case for the First Amendment, and then you show the First Amendment in action by having a comedian come up there and show what we can do in this country that you can't do in other countries. When I've been to other countries, you can't do this. You can't make fun of your leaders. Your life could be in peril. Your family's life. My friend Bassem Youssef, he was a Jon Stewart of the Middle East, now lives in California because he had to flee Egypt because he made fun of the leader Sisi there. So you have a comedian come up then, and that comedian makes fun of everybody, like they always do. They make fun of Trump. They make fun of the media. They make fun of the White House Correspondents Association. They make fun of Democrats. That's what they always do. To me, my fear is that Trump seeing this victory emboldens Trump to work even harder to silence the rest of us. Even Trump supporters listening, you know in your heart, if Donald Trump could silence the media, he would. And some of you might actually agree with it because polls tell us that. And I've cited this poll so many times where you had 42 or 43% of Trump supporters saying they would agree with shuttering media outlets if Donald Trump had viewed them as being unfair. So this, to me, is a massive mistake by the White House Correspondents Association. And I'm hoping that Olivier Knox, who's the president, they sit with their board and they have a different discussion. They can have a conservative comedian on. I don't care. I'm sure that person will make one joke about Trump. They can make fun of Democrats. That's life. That's what America is. Now the White House Correspondents Association has made it a great victory for Trump. And I'm surprised the media is not covering this more. I think this is a bigger story than it is. You actually have self-censoring by an organization dedicated to fighting for freedom of expression. Again, you have self-censoring by an organization whose very DNA, its very being, is fighting for freedom of expression. Trump has won this battle. American values have lost. That's where we are today. This is a real story. It's not a bullshit story about stupid tweets about things. This is how freedom of speech is eroded. It's not overnight. I've always said that. It's not in a signing an executive order. It's not by law. The first place is self-censorship. And that's what this organization has done. And it's absolutely unequivocally wrong. That is a chilling of free speech. And I'd love to hear from people. I mean, there's a lot of topics. You're my guest at the top of the hour. Then we're going to have Congressman-elect Harley Ruda, who beat Dana Rohrabacher. I was so excited that he beat Dana Rohrabacher. I almost said Dana's name instead of Harley Ruda. He's been on our show countless times, a lot of shows on this network. Great guy. He was on just a week before day before the election. It's official now. He has won the entire Orange County in California. Ronald Reagan's county has gone, the entire county, folks, went from red to blue. To put it in perspective, that would be like New York City, every member of Congress going from blue to red. That's how remarkable this victory is over there. And we can thank Trump. So it's also Thanksgiving week. If you have something to be thankful for, I'd love to hear from you. We're going to do that a lot tomorrow and Wednesday, of course. I have my own things to be thankful for. But give me a call, 866-997-4748, 866-997-4748. You're my guest. I'd love to hear what you think about the White House Correspondents Association. I honestly don't. I always say, if you think I'm making too much of it, tell me. I'm all ears for that, but I don't think I am. I keep telling you, and I urge my fellow Americans, if you self-censor, Trump has won. If you give in, saying it's a little bit harder to write this article, in my case, or a little bit easier not to criticize Trump on a TV show because I don't want hate mail, he has won. And when the White House Correspondents Association breaks a tradition of 35 plus years to have a comedian, because Donald Trump demanded that very thing in his tweet, and they did it, I think it's fundamentally wrong. It's an attack on our American values. And this is a bigger issue. And all the outrage about Trump attacking the military general, I'm all ears. You want to talk about that? But this is our First Amendment here today. This is freedom of expression. And this is how you lose it. This is how you lose it. So let's take a break. 866-997-4748. Be right back. Progressive values are the best of American values, and we need to keep fighting for them to save our country.
Don't go anywhere. This is the